Shana Tova, Shabbat Shalom, and Gemar Chatima Tova. Talmud study is argumentative. All rabbis study Talmud. So guess what happens when a rabbi marries another rabbi? I'm being playful, but my wife Deborah, the other Rabbi Schuldenfrei, we have our share of disagreements. And fighting is a reality of marriage. Not only in marriage, but in all of our relationships, a certain amount of disagreement is healthy. But disagreement has its obvious perils. There's the potential for hurt, for pain, for ruined relationships. So learning how to disagree is very important. A marriage counselor once told me that the most important thing for a couple to learn was how to fight. The therapist meant that couples need to be able to disagree in a productive way. Disagreement, let's say, where nobody ends up sleeping on the couch. And of course, this is not limited to relationships between husband and wife. It applies to all of our relationships. Our interactions have a way of bringing out our best and bringing out our worst. This is true at home, at the office, and as we wait for that next available agent to provide even a hint of customer service. Most of our sins, where we act the worst, it's in our interactions with each other. And there are some very meaningful Jewish guidelines to engaging in interpersonal relationships. Be patient, be friendly, be forgiving. All of this is somewhat self-evident, and still it's very important. And it's also worth pointing out that for the vast majority of our interpersonal connections, there is no conflict. Call it the win-win. Win-win is optimal. It's the best case scenario when everyone agrees. But what happens when there's a clash? How can we act when we disagree? How should we act when we have serious disagreements with loved ones? And how should we act when we need to tell the cell phone company that we cannot hear them now, or for that matter, we can never hear them? How do we move forward when win-win is simply not realistic? My suggestion is not applicable for every situation. It doesn't always work, but it should be considered. We usually talk for victory. We want to prove our point, to make our case, to show that we are right, we are correct. The legendary football coach Vince Lombardi said, "Winning is not everything, it's the only thing." I am sure that with his wife, he saw it a little bit differently. In our relationships, winning at all costs often has mixed results. And the cost is often way too high. If we get our way, but someone walks away hurt, or the relationship is damaged, is it worth it? How about a new strategy for disagreeing? It's an approach that Vince Lombardi could have never brought to the football field, but it can work in our relationships. This year, consider losing the argument to win in the long term. Lose to win. In Mel Brooks's famous production, The Producers, Bialystok and Bloom devise a scheme so that they can make a terrible play, a real stinker, and they can make the most money. This is not the lose to win that I'm talking about. It's a little more nuanced than that. And there's a beautiful midrash that best illustrates this idea of losing to win. We are the defendants, and God, as the judge of the world, is ready to enter a verdict on the high holidays. God hopes to decide that us, the people that we're not guilty. Why? God reasons as follows. When I win, I lose. That happened with the flood during the time of Noah. The people were bad, and so I punished them. I won, but I really lost, for I had to destroy almost all of the creatures in the world. God continues, I prefer to lose to win. That's what happened after the golden calf. I wanted to wipe out all the Jews and start over, but Moses convinced me not to do it. With Moses, I lost the argument. I didn't get my way, but ultimately, I won. The Israelites continue to live, and now I am blessed with the Jewish people. God concludes, it is much better when I lose to win. Too often, winning, proving the point, making the argument, being right, it's powerfully seductive in the moment, but in the big picture, it is horribly destructive. Like God in the Midrash, who from the flood learns the tragic consequences of winning, but ultimately losing, we too can learn. We can learn to bite our tongues, to refrain from too often involving ourselves in arguments and disagreements in which we may win, but we will ultimately lose. We can learn to lose in order to win. I want to tell you about a friend that I had growing up. And this friend had a very critical mother. Nothing my friend ever did was good enough. His mother always proclaimed to know a better way. And she was relentless. She always needed to show that she was right. She could never let go. She could never let my friend find his own way. Most of the time, my friend's mother was right. But my friend's mother could not see that winning came at a horrible cost. She could never see that in trying to help her son, she was killing his confidence and harming their relationship. My friend's mother won, but ultimately she lost. Now, almost 20 years after my friend moved away from home, he barely speaks with his mother. If only she could have recognized the importance of losing, she could have won a relationship with her son. If only she knew how to lose in order to win. The benefits of losing to win are clear in the Torah. Just remember Jacob. Jacob has a very complex relationship with his twin brother Esau, and they treat each other horribly. After years of estrangement, Jacob is a changed man. And when he finally encounters his brother again, even though he is not solely to blame for their estrangement, Jacob apologizes. And because of his apology, the relationship between the two brothers is reborn.